Gwendolyn, and I want to thank you all for coming here. I'd like to thank Sarah for reaching out to me. It's a privilege to be here, actually, and it's the way I see it. And thank you, Capital City Equality Center, Planning Peace, for the inception of all of this. And my dearest friend, Nikki Olden, Mungo, whom, without her, I would not have probably had an opportunity to even come to this place, to visit here. Now, as Stephanie had said, I'm a disabled veteran. I'm a former staff sergeant in the United States Air Force. I was a meteorologist. And I'm an out and proud trans woman. And being an out and proud trans woman, actually just coming out, one of the things that happens is you become an activist by default, immediately. Because you are immediately under siege. And that includes everything you love, everything that is attached to you, everything that you are attached to. And I also wanted to address the recent remarks of the president. First of all, I know very well that a tweet is not policy. That you don't make laws on social media. However, the president holds the highest office in the land. He is the chief representative of this country. He is the face of this country, and he is the voice of this country, which thereby default means he is your voice and my voice. And his recent remarks are absolutely retrograde to the unity of this country, to force readiness in the military. And they are damaging. They encourage violence. They encourage abuse of a myriad of kinds. Since the president is also considered he is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, it is essential that the president understand the structure, the policy, and the procedures of the military. And it is quite clear that he does not understand any of these. I want to tell you why trans healthcare is important in the military, and in order to do that, I have to tell you about my own experience in the military. And very similar to Stephanie, one of the reasons for joining the military was for the majority of my life, was desperately trying. I was pretending to be a boy. I was pretending that entire time. And in order to cope with what was inside of me, I drank. I lived at the bottom of a bottle. I was trying to erase myself. I was trying to erase who I really was. And it didn't work. It didn't happen. I got clean in 2000, and I had absolutely no prospects. I lived in Chicago. I couldn't find work anywhere. I had disruptions in my job history that just looked awful on paper. And honestly, as well, I did not join the military for ideologically pure reasons. There were two chiefest among them. The first was, it's that or starve. The second, I did have classical ideas about service. I also had a classical idea about the military that was perhaps a little too romantic. And that was, in times before, a stint in the military, short or long, makes a well-rounded young gentleman. When I joined and was being, during intake, what we refer to as MEPS, it's the station where you are processed into the military. All your physicals are done there, questionnaires of many different sorts. And two of those questionnaires, they pop up over and over again in, or they used to anyway, in the mental health care concerns is the military. And one's about 150 questions, the other one's about 80, and they have redundancies in them. These redundancies are meant to detect whether or not you're lying about anything. And it's the first time that I did lie. There were only 2 times in the military. Because when I joined the Air Force, they presented us with their core values. Their core values were thank you. Integrity first. And they defined integrity as doing the right thing even when no one is looking. And I liked that. It was appealing. It fit with my ideas of service. The second one, service before self. And that compounded it. I felt like I had purpose through these things. And the third and final was excellence in all we do. And I can tell you, I loved my job. I was good at it, really good at it. And I took a great deal of pride in it. Where diversity is concerned, when you enter the Air Force, basic training and tech school are a crucible. You are thrown together with a number of different people who maybe you would never even chosen to have associate with in your daily life. You need to get along with these people. You need to depend on these people. This is integral to the function of the military, that differences be set aside, that people accept each other at their base level. There is no hatred over skin color. There was no teasing over someone's culture. There was none of that. And through this, through my dependency on these other people, on these people I had been thrown together with and mashed up and expected to perform immediately, I made some of the best friends that I've ever had. And it was the cultivation of my patriotism. That was where my patriotism began as a seed, was in service to the people next to me. The willingness to trust in them my life, and for them to trust me with theirs. That is an enormous thing. It's incredibly grave. I love the livery and the customs of the military. I was proud of my appearance. I was proud of what I did. But my career was actually quite good for some time. It was meteoric, in fact. Sorry, I apologize here. I rarely made mistakes when I forecasted the weather, and you can go ahead and laugh because you're probably all familiar with the weathermen on TV. But I rarely made mistakes during my forecasting. I briefed pilots with pride and with concern over their safety to inform them of hazards that could tear their aircraft apart. I drew forecast charts for the entire nation. And the entire country was depending upon my scribbles. I received numerous recognitions for my performance. I gave time to local charities. I went to squadron events that are about as dry and boring as a party after church. I was promoted early twice. In the Air Force, we have a program or an established process known as Senior Airman Below the Zone. This is when you have a troop that is exceptional, extraordinary, and you wish to promote them to a higher rank much sooner than you normally would. I had to appear before a board. I had to be sharp. I had to know everything. And I was proud of all of this. Winning Senior Airman Below the Zone allowed me to test for Staff Sergeant early, and I made it on my first try. It's incredibly difficult to do that. The amount of questions are mind-numbing because you have to care for people. Once you are awarded this rank, they are in your trust. A lot of them are young. They haven't lived on their own before. You need to care for them as though they were your own. In Airman Leadership School, I received honor graduate as the top of my class, their Academic Achievement Award. I was given numerous scholarships by state colleges, aeronautical universities, and that was in recognition of that performance. And I had pride in supervising my troops and the responsibilities that a non-commissioned officer, a sergeant of any level, has to be committed to. But all of it started to deteriorate. This is another topic that needs to be addressed at some point, but not today. There is a binge drinking culture in the military. And I lived under extreme pressure and expectation from my command section. I became a poster child for them. And all the while I was continuing to hide who I really was. And I started to suffer from disciplinary problems. My squadron manipulated the assignment system so that I fell through the cracks. And stayed on that station for 4 years under their thumb. I chose the lesser of two evils at that point and was offered the opportunity to leave my own squadron, which forecast for a large chunk of the United States, and to move on just across the flight line to the weather station there, just to get away from the pressure from my environment there. And it was denied. I started to become aware of my deeper self, the person I was hiding. And I was still desperately trying to be a boy. I was trying to be male, a man, whatever. I was a caricature. I was bravado and bluster. I could drink anybody under the table. I fought constantly. My dedication to the job never wavered, though. But behavior in the military extends beyond active duty and the hours of the day that you're actually on shift. It encompasses your life. You're expected to present yourself in a certain way. And these are definitely not the things they wanted me doing. And I was a thorn to them. And I knew I needed help. I went to what the Air Force calls life skills. I don't know about the other branches, how they refer to it, but it basically is their mental health clinic. The information you share with the doctors there is neither private, nor is it privileged. And they communicated with my squadron everything. They presented me with a set of questionnaires, the exact same ones from my entry into the Air Force. One, 150 questions, the other roughly 80. And I decided this one time, to tell the truth about my gender. And I marked all of those that they refer to as gender confusion. When I did this, they pulled the other tests from my entry into the Air Force and held them side by side. They accused me of lying. They accused me of manufacturing this in order to get out of the military. And that wasn't the case. I'd been dealing with this my entire life. I came into the Air Force very late. I was 23. My family life deteriorated. My wife at the time was having difficulty adjusting to relocation. My working, the number of hours that I did, and we started to resent each other for a number of different reasons. And the monster that I became when I was drinking was spurred on by denial, by alcohol, by rage, over a confinement that I couldn't see or even touch because I couldn't admit it to myself. And all of this eventually ended my marriage. The squadron itself kind of gave up. There wasn't a day that I didn't think about that test after that, thinking back to the questionnaire, and the realization that I was trying to combat this with alcohol. I had despair over being removed from operations. I was no longer allowed to do my job. And I was still gung-ho, no matter how badly hurt I felt. Under the command section, they are capable of performing a function known as non-judicial punishment. And it's having your commander decide your fate instead of having the court-martial, or rather it's courts-martial. I received what's known as an Article 15, a UIF, unfavorable information file, a number of LOCs and LORs, letters of counseling, letters of reprimand, and it was because I was falling apart. And I wasn't falling apart because of the job, I was falling apart because I couldn't be myself. And when I tried to admit it, I was accused of falsehood. And eventually the commander decided that separation would be best. But before they did that, and here's the other honest part, I told you, I'm former staff sergeant. And that's the highest rank I held, actually. When I got out, they had taken a stripe from me. I went back to senior airman. In the Air Force, losing a stripe ends your career, almost invariably. In the Army, it's kind of expected to bounce around a little bit, to make a mistake once in a while. And they have a practice of going, well, I'm going to take that stripe. You're going to get back in 3 months. I'm going to take it for now. It reduces your pay grade. It reduces respect, I guess. It's supposed to be catharsis, I guess. So it was mandated for treatment as well, for alcohol dependency. And the passing of information from our mental health clinic to my commanders, they decided, instead of acknowledging any of the issues that I had had, that they would discharge me generally under honorable conditions, applying my performance so long. But at the very bottom of that discharge paperwork, it says one word. That is a job seeker's death sentence misconduct. So I was stranded in the state, right next to the base, and despite all my failures, I'm still proud of having served. I had to sacrifice my identity to do it. And that's something that the president can't seem to understand. We need to be out or it damages us. We need to have care or it damages us. It is not costly to provide it. Not costly at all. It does seem ridiculous, but the Viagra that was mentioned earlier, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I believe it's only a small percentage of that would cover trans care in the military. But when we're forced to hide, it becomes poisonous. We want to serve. We want to be out in order to do it. We want to serve without suffering. It doesn't have to mean the same thing. To serve does not have to mean to suffer. A lot of trans people that I know are highly intelligent. They are capable in body and mind. They have a desire to commit themselves to this kind of service. They have a warrior soul very often. They have classical views of service very often, similar to mine. I guess that romance of commitment there is a little bit extreme. It can get you in trouble. Kind of pie in the sky, I suppose. But they're willing. And to be discarded, to bar us from service, is to say that we are not fully citizens. I don't know if that's something anybody has really grasped yet. I felt it was a duty over time the growth of my patriotism. It is a right of citizens to be able to offer their service to this country. And it's also a privilege to serve. But there's this refusal to know us or even hear us. There needs to be an acknowledgement of our patriotism. There needs to be our country, 'tis of all. It's for all of us. There is this idea that trans care will harm the readiness of the military. Generals have already stated this is untrue. The foolishness on the part of the president to make claims like this, ignorant claims. He is definitely an impediment to what I would refer to as force readiness. A commander-in-chief without understanding of military policy and procedure is not a commander-in-chief. Technically speaking, he himself jumped the chain of command, a practice that we don't do in the military. He jumped the chain of command in this way by taking his case to the people, rather than the elected representatives of the people. And then to the people who would understand, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists. Again, a tweet is not policy. I still cherish and take pride in my service. I sacrificed my identity for it, and it was damaging and corrosive. For the president to bar us from service is entirely unconstitutional. And being allowed to serve, but prohibited from transition, is also unacceptable. I foresee a lot more stories like mine, like Stephanie's, and I foresee a lot more dead people, a lot more dead trans people. Today, I'm actually still committed to the service of America, and especially in Missouri and Kansas. Along with my dearest friend, Nikki Mungo, we're the co-founders of a religious sect whose primary duty and observance is to counter-expose those who would legislate their religious beliefs, those who would inject superstition and arbitrary authority based on their bizarre belief systems. My religion is activism. It has to be. My religion is to expose and counter willfully ignorant and harmful policies that are based in patriarchal and theistic arbitration and oppression. Mine is a religion of feminism. Therefore, a religion of equality. And our sisters and brothers are all equal. There are no priests and priestesses. In short, my duty to appear before you today, it's my duty to appear before you today. It's my duty to address the President's remarks. It's my privilege and honor to have served. And I would do it all over today if I was of age, a wish to be able to do that again, but as myself, finally, would be incredible for the youth. I want you to understand that I can't lay too much blame at the foot of my commander or any of the people that were part of my process of discharge. The ability to serve openly today, your success in service cannot be distracted from by the acidic erosion of denying who you are. And this is my truth. I'm a proud woman. I'm a proud veteran. I love my country. I want to see it become a healthier place for all of us. To serve, again, should not mean to suffer. My name's Gwendolyn. Thank you for being here.
Wow. Let's share a hand again for Gwendolyn. I got nothing to add, that's for sure. That was the most beautiful, remarkable, fantastic, courageous thing I've ever seen. And thank you. So I guess that basically concludes our program. You're welcome to hang around as long as you want to. This is, as well as being the Transgender Pride House and Finding Peace and Equality House, there's also a space that they have chosen to give to us to use for the time being as the Capital City Equality Centers. And you're welcome to come in and check it out. There's cold water in the refrigerator. If anybody wants some, please come get some. Don't hesitate. And I want to say thanks to Pedro and thanks to Luke, and just an amazing thank you again to Gwendolyn for her heartfelt, all-important, amazing story and courage. And we'll just call that a day. Thank you.